So I guess my question is like, if for me, like if I was surviving as an actor, that's like the dream. So what was the calling to directing? You mentioned like you were very, I'm done with acting. I'm a director now. Huzzah.
Well, thank you for adding the accent.
That's improv. Was there a specific thing though that like just, or did you just love it so much once you started like teasing it out?
Well, I mentioned acting, writing, photography. I did those three things separately in school and throughout my life.
Put them all together.
I was doing all that. It just had never, I wasn't like Spielberg with my trains at 8 years old making movies and knowing that like I want to make the next whatever.
Right.
I thought of, I loved these three separate disciplines and I was always doing all of them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, and I thought the dream was to be an actor. And it wasn't until I was lucky enough to achieve that dream, exactly what you're talking about, make my living as an actor, which is the dream for a lot of people. I was lucky enough to be able to do that in my 20s and realize, oh my God, I'm thoroughly unfulfilled by this.
Oh, sure.
It is not the creative outlet that I dreamed it would be. In fact, I found myself being kind of like what from the other side I would deem kind of a dick on set. Because I was the guy thinking like, why are they shooting in this order? Why is the camera here?
Oh, interesting.
Why? And I would ask questions from my meager perch as an actor to say like, would I, I was that guy being like, would I do that or might I move here? But I'm not saying that because based on the character. I'm saying that because I'm third eyeing it. I'm on the outside and I'm thinking about how they're shooting it.
Yeah, you're backseat directing.
Yeah, I'm backseat directing. That's what it was. And at some point I was like, I got to stop doing this and put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah. And how did you do that? Did you just start doing like sketches and shorts with your friends or?
Well,
because like, the weird thing to me is like, I feel like you're not the first director I've talked to that started in acting, right?
Yeah.
It just seems like it makes sense. But like, to me, to go from directing, like I just did a short, I didn't direct it, but I just did a short with my friend last weekend. Like it was a lot of work. How do we go from like a short like that to Modern Family or Single Parents? Or like the steps don't make as much sense to me as they do in acting, I guess.
Well, yeah, I think there's a reason that a lot of really great directors were actors. I mean, like there's something about being in that process and understanding what goes into it that I think makes you conversant in a language that enables you to connect with and communicate with actors, especially when things get tough on set and you're under pressure and you don't have a lot of time and you have to very quickly, make the scene better, connect with what it is, whatever it is. It's like there's something about the language of sort of active verbs that you come to understand and what makes sense to an actor, what's actionable, that I think you learn almost only from being an actor.
Yeah.
So I had that in me somewhere. And, so we're in this time in the story where I'm uncomfortable being an actor or not fulfilled by it. Let's put it that way. And so I wanted to make a short film but I'm a perfectionist and I swing big.
Me too, yeah.
So I knew that I had saved up a little money from residuals on commercials. And I was like, I'm going to end up blowing like my entire savings on whatever this thing is.
Yeah.
I know it. So I better make it good.
Yeah.
So I actually worked for kind of consciously over the course of about 3 years to find the idea. Like I wrote a bunch of short film scripts that I didn't think were good enough and I wasn't like, this isn't the one to push the chips to the center of the table on. And then one night I was at a party with my buddy Hayes MacArthur, who's an actor, 6'5", handsome, charming, grew up rich. Everything in life is easy for him. And we love each other and hadn't seen each other in a minute and gave each other a big hug. Did I mention he's 6'5"?
Yeah, you did.
And I'm 5'4".
You're
maybe, like on a good day. And
no
so
comment.
when we hugged, he had to lean way over to
It was a
hug me.
dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like it formed like a parallelogram of space between us. And people looked at us when we hugged. They were
Yeah.
like, what's going on here? And I was thinking about that moment, that awkward moment the next day in the car, and the title, The Adventures of Big Handsome Guy and His Little Friend,
That's funny.
popped into my head. And I called him up and I said, I've been trying to think of like, literally at that point for 2 years, I had been making false starts about like this short film idea.
Yeah.
And I said, I think this could be a thing. And he's like, oh, we're doing that. I'm coming to your house this afternoon. We're going to start writing it.
I love it.
And that's what happened. We wrote and we wrote and we rewrote for a year to get the like 16 pages we were happy with.
Yeah.
And then we raised some money and we kicked in our own money. And at that point, look, digital, this is 2004, 5. Digital photography was, certainly wasn't iPhone photography like there is now. And to make it look really good, and it was going to be a directorial sample, we shot on film, Super 16.
Wow, good for you.
So it cost about 20 grand all in. And the result got into a bunch of festivals.
Oh, good for you.
And it got us signed, and me signed as a writer-director.
Oh, good. Awesome.
And then they packaged us together with some experienced showrunners to pitch it as a TV series. Now, when we made it, we were thinking it would be a feature,
Right.
but we could never decide what the feature story was. We had like 200 stories.
Sure.
And somebody was like, duh,
TV.
that's a television show.
Yeah.
So we sold it as a television show, and it got remade, the $20,000 short, into a $3.5 million pilot
Wow.
for Fox.
Wow.
And
And then you're sort of off and running almost, right?
In a way.
Did you direct that pilot?
I did not.
Oh, interesting.
At the
You
time,
didn't have faith,
I was
yeah.
a kid
Yeah.
who had directed only one short film. What are
Right.
they're going to hire me to direct a giant pilot?
Right.
I was co-writing the pilot. I was co-executive producing the pilot.
Yeah.
And that seemed like enough. Also, at that point, I was in it. It was about me and my buddy.
Right.
And even though I had mentally moved on from acting, like it was us.
Yeah.
So, and they wanted us to be in it. So that was plenty. But I learned from that. I learned as they sort of adapted this thing, and I watched how the money corrupted the process.
Yeah.
And I watched how having more time and more resources resulted in a finished product that actually made it feel like me and my buddy had no chemistry.
Right.
Because all of the time equaled more coverage. More coverage equaled less long two shots just existing together
Yeah,
in the same
less
frame.
connection, yeah.
Less feeling of connection. And at the end of the day, the network, they were very close to picking it up, and it didn't get picked up because they liked my $20,000 short film better than they liked the $3.5 million pilot they made to adapt it.
Yeah.
But for me as a director, not directing that pilot ended up being like the greatest thing that could happen to my career, almost accidentally, because the takeaway for them was that they should have let me direct it.
Oh, very cool.